Then said Almitra, "Speak to us of love." And he raised his head, and he looked upon the people, and there fell a stillness upon them. And with a great voice he said, "When love beckons to you, follow him, though his ways are hard and steep. And when his wings enfold, you yield to him, though the sword hidden among his pinions may wound you. And when he speaks to you, believe in him, though his voice may shatter your dreams as the north wind lays waste to the garden. For even as love crowns you, so shall he crucify you. Even as he is for your growth, so he is for your pruning. Even as he ascends to your height and caresses your tenderest branches that quiver in the sun, so shall he descend to your roots and shake them in their clinging to the earth. Like sheaves of corn, he gathers you unto himself. He threshes you to make you naked. He sifts you to free you from your husks. He grinds you to whiteness. He kneads you until you are pliant. And then he assigns you to his sacred fire, that you may become sacred bread for God's sacred feast. All these things shall love do unto you, that you may know the secrets of your heart, and in that knowledge become a fragment of life's heart. But if your fear you would seek only love's peace and love's pleasure, but if your fear you would seek only love's peace and love's pleasure, then it is better for you that you cover your nakedness and pass out of love's threshing floor into the seasonless world where you shall laugh, but not all of your laughter, and weep, but not all of your tears. Love gives not but itself and takes not but from itself. Love possesses not, nor would it be possessed, for love is sufficient unto love. When you love, you should not say, "God is in my heart," but rather, I am in the heart of God. And think not you can direct the course of love, for love, if it finds you worthy, directs your course. Love has no other desire but to fulfill itself. But if you love and must needs have desires, let these be your desires, to melt and be like a running brook that sings its melody to the night, to know the pain of too much tenderness, to be wounded by your own understanding of love, and to bleed willingly and joyfully, to wake at dawn with a winged heart and give thanks for another day of loving, to rest at the noon hour and meditate love's ecstasy, to return home at eventide with gratitude, and then to sleep with a prayer for the beloved in your heart and a song of praise upon your lips. Khalil Gibran, the prophet. We are tuned in to Fitness and Consciousness. Today's episode is called Used to Know. By used, I mean as in the past tense, to utilize, and let's see, what other meanings do we have for the word used? There's some other subtle differences, right? I'll be hitting this from a bunch of different angles, as I normally do. And I was thinking of like certifications, so if you listen to the show regular, or you know me personally, you know that I'm a Strong First kettlebell instructor. I have been for almost 4 years, and I'm letting that certification expire in May. I've chosen not to get another certification, although I am looking into perhaps flying out to San Diego and training with David Weck and getting his qualification. But I'm not in a real big hurry for that. But I was thinking about these certifications, and I have, my certifications from my jiu-jitsu class, from my rank. I have the Strong First certification. I've done that twice. I still have my certification from when I was a trainer in 1999. And I even have a birth certificate. So if you don't believe that I was born, I have the certificate to prove it. So I don't have a problem with certifications. I think they're very useful if you're looking for somebody that understands the Strong First system. It makes sense to look for someone with a Strong First certification. And I'm planning on starting my own certification for part of it's going to be freestyle kettlebell training. I may end up with a different name for it, but I'm working on that. I don't want to unveil too much right now. It's going to be coming out as we go. But as I'm making this transition, and I'm going to get into why that first the thing I read from the prophet, I'm going to get into why I did that, in case you're wondering where that weird segue happened. I went to the mall the other day. I was wanting to get shirts made up for the podcast, fitness and consciousness shirts. And so I had looked online, but it's hard to tell online what the colors really are and how it'll look and how things will look printed out. And I didn't have I have the logo for the show, but if you're listening on iTunes or like one of those sources, the logo looks a little different than YouTube. It's for several different reasons that don't really matter too much. It has to do with me not being, honestly, it's me not being super technical, understanding how this stuff works on like sizing pictures, and they'll say it needs to be this size and this quality, and I get one that's that size and that quality. And then you can see the bottom part of fitness and the top part of consciousness, and you can't see anything else. I don't understand. And so the one on YouTube, I used a different thing. It still says fitness and consciousness. Still me, still the same, everything else. But so I'm looking into thinking I don't really want to have an exact logo other than the lettering, because I think I would get tired of it. So I kind of decided I'm going to have several symbols for the show that mean different things. And one of them, if you're on YouTube, I know most people just listen to the show, but the show is on YouTube. That's why I mentioned it a few times here. Behind me is a lotus, and it's the heart chakra lotus. And so that's going to be one of the symbols for the show. And also the Vishuddha chakra, the throat chakra. And all the other ones. And there's some, people, that's like 7 of them, 7 chakras that are like the main ones you could say. And then there's a lot of other ones that are like lesser known. And but I went to the mall, and I'm at the t-shirt place, and I had like a couple examples, but I didn't quite like it. And it said like on their ad that, they help you to design. So I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to go and check it out. And so when I'm there, the guy's in a big hurry. It takes him a minute to even like pay attention to me, even though it seems like there's like 3 people there that are just sort of chatting. And then he asked me what I'm looking for. And so I'm trying to tell him, and then he's like moving around, doing all kinds of stuff. He's turning his back, and he's taking his shirt from here and putting it over there. And he's like making this hoodie folded slightly different. And he's over here and over there and pushing this button and pushing on his phone. And he's like, sorry, I just can't stop moving. We're just super busy. We're not even supposed to be taking orders. But it looked like he was just kind of busy being busy to me. But like if you just like focus on one thing at a time, that would be helpful, especially when trying to do some business. But um, so I had like this design that was like a little real basic, and and he just wasn't super helpful with how it could be. I didn't really like their selection of colors, but you can bring your own shirt and stuff. And so he, says he'll work on it, and then by the time I get back out to my car, like, I'm just gonna send him a message and cancel because he sent me a message. He hadn't done any actual work, and so I just said, I'll get back to you because I wasn't happy with the design. And so then I remembered a friend of mine that makes shirts, and I don't think I'm going to quite unveil who it is yet. I'm quite certain I'm going to go with her, and I'd be happy to promote her business on the show for sure. But I sent her a message. Her kids used to come to my strength and conditioning class when I was doing that. I still teach strength and conditioning, but just not classes at that place. But so she's like, sure, I'd love to be, I told her I was like looking for, like the chakras, especially the heart and the throat chakra. And she sends me a message back. She'd love to be part of the project. And she sends me a couple examples, and it's like, yes, that is so cool. I'd seen her work before, but I hadn't seen like that part of it. And I was like, man, that is so cool. That's it. It's so simple. And like she's like, well, what's your deadline? And this kind of thing. Like, well, there is no deadline, because I felt really rushed at the mall. And I also kind of felt like I was at the mall and I'm talking to like one of these mall guys. Nothing against people that are mall people, but I was like, oh, no deadline. She seemed excited to do this, and she's super artistic, obviously. And so I was like, just take your time with it. I'm ready when you are. I'm ready to pay you when you want it. And because at first she's like, oh, I need a deposit to start getting on the artwork. Sure. How do you want me to send it? I can send it to you right now. And then she ended up like, oh, we'll just worry about it later. And so for the Strong First shirts, everything's black and gray. And then for the pants, there's like kind of like a Strong First uniform. It's like what, khakis. You're supposed to look professional, which I think is good. But like more like wearing like khakis, like athletic kind of khakis. And the shirts, they're all black, they're all gray. It's all just, and so I'm going from that to, if you can see me now, I'm wearing a blue shirt. My background, it's blue green. Heart chakra is supposed to be green. This behind me, it's green, and it has some blues in it too, which is interesting because the throat chakra is blue. And so in a way, I'm kind of going from, well, not in a way, in many ways, I'm going from this kind of like world of black and gray to this world of color, because the shirts I'm getting, I think some of them are going to be tie-dye, and some of them, she uses like this batik process. I'm not real familiar with it. It's more like she'll be like hand making each one. It's neat. And so I'm going from like this world of black and gray to this world of like color, and it feels just more alive. I mean, if I show like the Strong First shirt, and I don't have anything against Strong First. I don't agree with every single thing they say, but it's a solid certification. If somebody wants a kettlebell certification, I say that's a good one. There's other good ones. Steve Cotter. There's other good ones for sure. and I'm not trying to talk bad about it as an organization. But kind of like the Wizard of Oz popped in my mind. And the show starts out, it's black and white, and then all of a sudden it's in Technicolor, and it's just more alive. So I want my, I guess, image and myself to be just more alive. I mean, it's not like I was feeling like grim and blue wearing my black Strong First shirt. It makes you feel like kind of tough, really. It makes you like it's hard. It's called hard style. It's hard, like the kettlebell techniques and stuff. The training method is hard stuff, and so gives you like this tough kind of feel. And people know that if you're a Strong First instructor, that you can actually do what you preach. But I'm really excited for these shirts to come out, and I have to see how everything goes. I'm sure it's going to be fine. I'm sure it's going to be awesome. I already loved the designs, but I'd like to have them to be available for people that listen to the show. And even if people don't listen to the show, the shirts are going to say fitness and consciousness, and they're going to be these cool designs and stuff. So even if you can't stand to listen to my show, I have to hit pause. I thought I had to hit pause. My computer so the battery was running low. I thought it was plugged in. So anyways, yeah, I want to have these shirts available to people. And I think they're going to come out great. And I'm really excited about it. Where before I was, my computer is doing weird things. It's like wants to restart on me. Sorry. So where before I was trying to decide on a logo, I'm like, I don't want to decide on a logo. I want to say fitness and consciousness, and because I'd probably get sick of some logo after a short amount of time. Or how can you make a perfect logo? So my idea is kind of have whichever one I feel like at the moment. There's going to be heart chakra, all the chakra stuff, and sorry if I'm talking a little choppy here. My computer keeps popping stuff up at me. It's not supposed to be doing that. But I think it's going to be really cool. I'm really looking forward to it. And let's see. So getting back to how I started the show, and I was talking about, I read the Khalil Gibran about love, and it wasn't all just pleasant, was it? So I have these situations going on, and for instance, this I mentioned her before on the show, is like the friend, and she used to be more than a friend, and now we're just friends. And it's a lot of her, I guess her feelings for me have been inconsistent. And even though I've just been thinking, be just a solid friend for the last however long, sometimes it'll seem like something else might be brewing. She'll start to snuggle up with me on the couch if we're watching a movie, or she'll say some things, talk about how we'll be talking about something, and like relationships or something will pop up, and then she'll say like, a lot of people don't want what we want, so she's talking about how we want the same thing. And, we were having carry out the day before Valentine's Day. And then she was kind of saying something like they're like wanting the same thing then, but not exactly like saying it, but not telling me if that makes any sense. And so uh, I'm walking out the door, getting ready to leave, I guess you could say, and then she asked me if I want to just come over the next day, which would be Valentine's Day, and um, I won't say exactly what she said. Well, let's just say it was of an adult nature, and I think I was looking at her like I was really surprised to hear her talk like that. Um, and then so I think the way I was looking at her was like, "What the fuck are you saying to me right now?" And because basically, like she was asking me if I just like wanted to come over and hook up on Valentine's Day. She's like, "Oh, it's been a long time," and then I think I was looking at her like, "Wait, what?" And then after like a minute of her talking, and she's like, I think she like saw my face. Well, I'm sure she did. I was standing there, but then she's like, "I'm totally joking." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And I didn't really know how to take that, and I was not planning on seeing her or anybody else on Valentine's Day. And so it gets to be, the next day, and I send her a message and I ask her if she wants to do something. And I wasn't just talking about hooking up. That wasn't what I meant at all. We tell each other, we tell ourselves like these half truths, don't we? Here's what I want to present to the world, and I know that I'm keeping about half of what I really think to myself. It's interesting how we do that. So part of what and so she ended up declining my offer to do something. I was like, okay. And then so let's see, uh, not a couple weeks ago or whatever it was, I said something about, oh, I guess it was like shortly after that I told her that I'd like, I'm always the one that pays for the carry out, except for once she paid for it. And so I sent her a message telling her that it'd be nice for her to reciprocate and for things to be more even. I mean, if we're just friends, and even if not, then why am I the one that's paying for everything? And it wasn't like these are extravagant meals. This is curry. It's these $13-14 meals, $14 each or something like that. Sometimes might get a little something else. Well, her reaction was not so good. I'm not saying it was bad, as in wrong. I think it came at a wrong time. She's had a ton of expenses lately, had to move a couple times, and in a short amount of time, she moved into one place and then realized it had mold, and so she had to move out, and it was a whole ordeal. And it was expensive, and so I think when I sent this message, there was a lot of wrong timing things going on, and I'm trying to like talk through this with her because I want to understand where she's coming from. I want her to understand where I'm coming from. Like I didn't mean it as like, and her response to me was just, she's like, you pay for carry out. We get carry out like maybe once every 2 months. Like, it's like about once a week. And then she's like, well, it's maybe like once every other week if we're lucky. And it's not like it's every single week, but it might be a few weeks in a row, skip a week or two, a few weeks in a row, 1 week. But I'm trying to like get to the heart of what she's talking about. But she doesn't like to do a lot of explaining. And so she had some like misunderstandings. Like she said something like, maybe it's part of this because I quit teaching at these classes a couple times a week. So she's like, maybe it was because you had a recent loss of income, and I'm actually doing fine. But I didn't really say that because she's talking about how she's spending all this money lately from moving and a bunch of stuff. And so I wasn't going to be like, oh, I'm fine financially, so that's not it. I didn't want to say it like that. And then she's like just saying like she doesn't want to talk about it anymore. And she has told me before that like her mom used to tell her like, don't tell guys how you really feel. She's like, don't like show them, like don't give them the power, something like that. And so I kind of brought that up in a way that was not exactly saying that like, oh, your mom taught you this, but it was like, Mark, I know you said, I brought it up somehow, however it was. And she was a little defensive about that. Maybe it wasn't the right thing for me to say. I'm trying to like show her, you can actually talk to me. And it's not like I'm going to go telling people about it. Just like the whole world on a podcast, thousands and thousands of people all over the world tuning in. But besides that, secret's safe with me. And I think the way that I do this, I hope it's like in a way that helps people like process things. It helps me process things. So I'm thinking if I'm going through this stuff, somebody else is too. And so I'm not saying her name. If you happen to be really close to me, you might know who I'm talking about. But if not, you probably don't. You almost certainly do not. Because we don't really advertise when we're hanging out. We don't post on Facebook that we're hanging out. We don't do so it's when I'm talking about these things that are really personal, I'm bringing up other people. The idea is for these things to help everyone process whatever it is that they're going on, including myself. And like, what kind of advice would I give myself if I have these things going on? So she sends me this, one of the things in her message. It said something like, she's like, I really don't care. And she's like, I don't want to open up to you like that, or something like that. And I was like, okay, damn. But I'm trying to say like, well, it upsets her when I don't know exactly what she's thinking, even though she doesn't really tell me. And her actions and words to me vary by large amounts from, her making the first move the first night we hung out to acting like I'm crazy for like remembering this stuff. And so I'm, not trying to say that I'm perfect in every way that I go about things, but it seems like I remember the wrong stuff at the wrong moment sometimes. And I'm just trying to figure this out. Like, I want to know, like, I'm into like communication, and this is something that's somewhat of a recent phenomenon for me. I've been doing this show for over a year, and if you follow me on Instagram, it's at Hadley Fitness, Hadley Fitness. The last post I did, I'm pretty sure it was the last one, is the Vishuddha chakra, the throat chakra, which will be one of the symbols for the show. because I'm talking about like expressing more, and I'm wearing a blue shirt, and maybe it's not like, and there's like the bluish greenish background, and the microphone's blue, and um, so I've had a few relationships, I guess a couple of them really in particular, where the communication I thought was really good, and be able to, instead of just like be this tough guy that doesn't um, express his thoughts and feelings, I'm working on being the tough guy that can express these things. And so this, but she's, says these things that are kind of hurtful, and then I'm like, but I said something about the inconsistency, and she wrote like, I never claimed to be consistent with you. Okay, at least we have that to go from. And to be fair, maybe I'm not consistent with her, and maybe something I'm maybe should work on is like riding the wave too much. Maybe I'm okay. If she's saying yes, then I'm saying yes. If she's saying no, then I'm like, well, then no. Oh, yes. Okay. Well, okay. No. Well, then no. So either way, it's like, yeah, me too. I don't know why I do that. She has a lot of good qualities, and in some ways, we had an interesting story from the time when we first saw each other. It was pretty intense, and we've had some pretty intense times, and in a good way. But then there's these other times where she acts like I'm almost like I'm delusional for remembering that stuff. And there's uh, another ex of mine, and we're talking about doing another podcast together. And so her and I were together, I think, for like 8 months or so, something like that. And she's with another guy now. And it seemed like I don't think I'm going to get into that. But she was basically, we were talking about like what we have going on now, and we're not doing anything sneaky. We're not trying to hook up and see each other in any sort of romantic way or anything like that. But we were talking about doing a podcast together, and she's someone who one thing that I appreciated was her willingness to like talk through things and like get and dig back these layers. Dig back these layers. You know what I mean? Pull back these layers, dig deep, and get to these like truths. Oh, is that reaction that you just did 5 minutes ago? Is that because of something that happened 20 years ago? Is that reaction from somebody that you dated 5 years ago? Is that reaction something that happened when you were a little kid? Is that something that you're afraid of? Is that reaction because you're afraid of something in the future? Is that we can really, really dig deep into these things. And sometimes when we get to and like, so just like recently, it seems like, yeah, this is a really cool thing to have happening. Not that I'm thinking that we should get back together or trying to be like And she's not talking like that either. I think we're both on the same page about that. But I appreciate the communication part, because sometimes I have this weird desire to like express myself now, where I went for so long where I pretty much didn't say hardly anything to anyone. I lived almost like a monk for like about 10, 11 years or so. Wasn't really seeing anyone. I had no serious girlfriends through that time. I might have went out on a date here and there, but pretty much single guy by myself, and just living basically like a monk for that time. And there were several things that probably led up to that. But now, maybe if I live like a monk, it's a different kind of monk, a monk that communicates. So, it can be kind of weird when our exes start to see someone else. And see, at first, the one that I was talking about coming on the podcast with me, she broke up with me, and then almost right away I had this interesting bunch of circumstances happen, and I started seeing the other woman I was just talking about. It happened almost right away, which is really not like me, but these planets aligned perfectly, and it's like, wow, this amazing thing is happening, where she is telling me, yes, definitely this monogamous thing, this is what we're doing, we're trying, we're going to see what happens. And she's making the first move, and it was exactly what I wanted, and it was just this amazing thing. And then it's not happening right now. Check out this song. Who else is going to bring you a broken arrow? Who else is going to bring you a bottle of rain? There he goes, moving across the water. There he goes, turning my whole world around. Do you feel what I feel? Can we make that so it's part of the deal? I got to hold you in these arms of steel. Lay your heart on the line this time. I want to breathe when you whisper like that hot summer breeze. Count the beads of sweat that cover me. Didn't you show me a sign this time? Who else is going to bring you a broken arrow? Who else is going to bring you a bottle of rain? There he goes, moving across the water. There he goes, turning my whole world around. Can you see what I see? Can you cut behind the mystery? I will meet you by the witness tree. Leave the whole world behind. I want to come when you call. I'll get to you if I have to crawl. They can't hold me with these iron walls. We've got mountains to climb. Who else is going to bring you a broken arrow? Who else is going to bring you a bottle of rain? There he goes, moving across the water. There he goes, turning my whole world around. It's by Robbie Robertson. I first heard that song, I'm pretty sure, by the Grateful Dead. I love that song. I think it'd have like Phil Lesh singing it. He can't sing worth a fuck, and it's beautiful. It's so vulnerable and just endearing. I don't think he's a good singer. I love to hear him sing. I don't care if somebody's. Of course, it's okay to hear a great singer, but there's a lot of great singers I can't hardly stand to listen to. But you show me somebody that's up there and they feel it and they mean it. I'll take it. I think one thing I'm going to do is, I'll just say that I am going to do it. I've been playing guitar since I was 13 years old. I'll be 40 in a couple months. And I've recorded some stuff. And I go for a long time without playing. And I have this cool old guitar. I have a 1969 Martin classical. And I'm going to start recording and putting my music out somewhere. And kind of something I thought about doing was maybe I'll be talking on the podcast, and then if I can figure out how to make it sound right, then maybe I'll like play a song. I thought that might be kind of cool. I got like pretty rusty. I was getting to where I was playing pretty good, and then got to where I wouldn't play for a while, and nothing sounds good. I was, yeah. Anyways, I think that'll be a kind of a cool thing to do, and so used to know. So as I, to get, try to like, remind people of the show title sometimes, and so these experiences, we use them to know ourselves, or we can. So these relationships that didn't work, now she's with some other guy. Well, in a way I didn't. In some ways I did want it to work, and in some ways I didn't. Like the one that I'm talking about is coming on the podcast. We had our first date, and I ended up breaking our second date because I won't date two girls at the same time, even if it's at the very beginning. I'm like one of those weirdos. And I started to there was this friend of mine, and I was starting to get some hints that she wanted more, and I kind of wanted more, and wasn't really sure what was going to happen. But I knew I couldn't have two things happening at the same time. I couldn't try to see what's going on with one and someone else. And I couldn't imagine like being at dinner with one, and then my phone goes off and it's the other one. And so I just don't do that. I know it's like rare. But so since I had that going on, we were supposed to have our second date, and I send her this message. Like I don't know what's going to happen. And I basically just said that I can't date two women at the same time. This is somebody that I already knew for a while. And that was the only reason. And well, these half truths are tell ourselves. So like maybe part of the reason also was the one woman that had the first date with. I knew that she made a lot more money than me, and I'm okay with that. It's another half truth. I mean, sure, I just want the best. I found out she gets a raise, she gets a big bonus, and I'm genuinely happy for her. But there's also maybe this slight inadequacy feeling come up, like that doesn't feel so good. I'm happy for her. I hope she makes 10 times as much. I hope she hits the lottery. I hope I don't want her to do worse, and when at the time I was driving a cab, and when I first started driving a cab, I was doing really well. You can make, $1,000 a week profit. You can make more than that. It takes a lot of driving. You have to work for it. That's for sure. But you can make pretty decent money driving a cab. And it was to where I was training people also. So if you like just get in the cab and that's all you're doing, then you can make that good money. But what was happening was, okay, I have clients throughout the day, so I'm driving the cab, and I go to my clients, and then so that's time out of the cab. I'm making money anyways. But then, so the time I'd be driving the cab, it would get to be like where I'm putting a lot of time into it, but not enough so it's profitable enough to make it like really worth it. And then my training was going well, but it wasn't quite enough for me to just want to live off of that alone. And so I was like in this weird spot where I'm working all the time and I'm doing okay. But I'd get into the cab. I'm like, okay, it's Sunday. Sunday was our free day. So we'd pay the lease $85 a day, Monday through Saturday. And then they called Sunday free. And so I'm like, okay, I got my coffee. I'm going to get in the cab. It's, kind of early, mid-morning, and this is going to be just nothing but profit all day. Ready to go. Got my music ready. Everything's cool. And I'd get in the cab, and I'd be in the cab for just seconds. My back would start to hurt. I don't have back problems, but man, when you drive so much, oh man, driving, I mean, we should really respect people that are driving these trucks and cabs and doing the driving business. It's not easy. It's not easy at all. It's really tough on you. And it'd get to be like so uncomfortable, and I'd get like claustrophobic. And I would just have to get out. And maybe I was only in the car for minutes, just a few minutes, and not even go on any runs, or I just got to get out of the car. And so I was like making less and less. And I'm like, oh, I got this bill due. Now I have to work even more the next day. And it was this weird rut that I was in. Like I had these cool things happening, training, my classes, and then I also had like this big drag on me. And so we meet for our first date. And so maybe there was like a little bit of feeling of, and ask me, she was into me. For sure. She said it right away, that she was into me, and it was cool. I mean, right away we were talking about like Kundalini, and I mean, these things, they came up very naturally. We weren't talking about like sexual stuff in any kind of perverse way at all. It was more like this like beautiful spiritual sort of way. Oh, this is really cool. And then then this thing with this like friend of mine that looked like it was going to be like more was going to be happening, a different one than what I was talking about before with messaging and stuff. Okay. And so that didn't end up working out. But I think even like during that time, which wasn't really a long time, I still kept in contact with her. I liked the way that we communicated, and there was nothing to me, like nothing sneaky going on. But then like once I knew that nothing was happening with the one, and I felt this thing out with her again. We have our second date. And so that's kind of like a weird way to start, but that's what happened. And we ended up being together. And I think that thing from the beginning, it altered the course of the rest of the relationship also. But anyway, she was someone, like she knew I hated driving the cab. It was really stressing me out. And I had this weird thing going on with, what I just explained. So she really encouraged me to quit and take the time to, build my training business. And then, a few months later, so I took like a couple months off, and then like in the third month, I ended up getting another like part-time job, and just kind of like supplement everything. And so now I have, and then I got another job in a couple months after that. And so now I have like a full-time job and a training job and a podcast. So I have like all this stuff going on now. And I'm in a completely different scenario than what I was when her and I first met. And so I have a lot of gratitude towards her for that. And then it was like, why didn't I do this before? And there were some reasons, like before I had like clients throughout the day, and then I just happened to be in a spot where all my clients and classes were in the afternoons and evenings. And then so now I have what I call my job where I work at this factory, and it's decent money and good benefits. And I work from 5 in the morning till 1 in the afternoon. And then in the evenings, late afternoons and evenings, I usually have clients start like about 4:30 or so, and I work in through the evening. And so it works out really well. And so part of me was like, God, why did it take me so long for this to happen? And so this is like one of the ways I like used her to know. So I wasn't like using her as in like, some kind of bad in a bad way. But just like you might use a book to know something, you read the book to know something. You're taking advantage of the book, but it's not any kind of like ill intent or anything. So we use these relationships to like know ourselves better and know our capabilities better. And hopefully every relationship we end up a little bit better. We end up growing something. And so I can look back at some of these relationships that I've had, and I guess we should go from all of them, grow from all of them, the good, the bad. But I wouldn't say I really had any bad ones for a long time. In my very early 20s, there was one that was pretty rough. I was like with my son's mom. I'll just be honest about it. It was with my son's mom. And a lot of it was great, but part of it might have been our age and difference in personality, but it was like we'd like yell at each other and stuff. And so now I couldn't imagine being in a relationship where we yell at each other. And I'm not saying it was her fault. Yes, I am. But since then, even if there's like these disagreements, there's no yelling or calling each other names and this kind of stuff. That seems so foreign to me now, and it's weird to see people stuck in these kind of relationships where they're barking at each other and picking at each other, and but like the relationship with my son's mom. I'm sure glad I have my son. He turns 18 tomorrow. It's almost tomorrow now. It's 11:41 p.m. February 27th. He turns 18 on the 28th. My mom's birthday is March 1st. That's pretty cool too. But so we use these relationships to know ourselves better, to know about life better, to know about other people better, and to get more and more understanding of who we are and what we can do. And so going forward, who knows what's going to happen? Like from like I'll be turning 40, April 27th. My Strong First expires in May, and it's weird to be kind of excited about that. But I have these cool things happening with the training business and the podcast, and just going from like almost settling on this kind of shirt, this fitness and consciousness shirt at the mall, where I wasn't really happy with it, but I was like, it's okay. And then it's like, well, why would I want something where I'm just like, it's okay? And then talk to this friend of mine that makes shirts, and she sends me something that's just perfect. And now I'm excited about it. And I'm going from black and gray to tie-dye and batik, whatever the hell that means. It's like some kind of process where she'll use like wax to make the image, and then I'm not sure how it all works, but it's really cool. So I think I'll start to wrap the show up, and usually I make up a little bit more of an outline for the show than what I did today. I knew a bunch of stuff that I wanted to talk about. I still made my outline, but I hope I made sense here. I was going to read this poem from Glebe. I'm not going to. Something that I'm finding frustrating about some of these poems is these translations is the way they rhyme. Am I crazy, or does it not sound right when poems rhyme like that? I know we need rhyming in poems, but when you have it, when you're translating something, my advice is it doesn't have to rhyme like that. Like, I don't know. Is it weird to think poems don't need to rhyme? Is it time for a new rhyme paradigm? Let's see. Oh. I wanted to read this song by Robert Hunter. Grateful Dead sang it, played it. Right outside this lazy summer home, you don't have time to call your soul a critic, no. Right outside the lazy gate of winter's summer home, wondering where the nuthatch winters, wings a mile long, just carried the bird away. Wake up to find out that you are the eyes of the world, but the heart has its beaches, its homeland, and thoughts of its own. Wake now, discover that you are the song that the morning brings, but the heart has its seasons, its evenings, and songs of its own. There comes a Redeemer, and he slowly too fades away. There follows a wagon behind him that's loaded with clay, and the seeds that were silent all burst into bloom and decay. The night comes so quiet, and it's close on the heels of the day. Wake up to find out that you are the eyes of the world, but the heart has its beaches, its homeland, and thoughts of its own. Wake now, discover that you are the song that the morning brings, but the heart has its seasons, its evenings, and songs of its own. Sometimes we live no particular way but our own. Sometimes we visit your country and live in your home. Sometimes we ride on your horses. Sometimes we walk alone. Sometimes the songs that we hear are just songs of our own. Wake up to find out that you are the eyes of the world, but the heart has its beaches, its homeland, and thoughts of its own. Wake now, discover that you are the song that the morning brings, but the heart has its seasons, its evenings, and songs of its own. That's how you write a song. I think I'll leave the show with that. I appreciate everyone tuning in. The show's doing really well. It's so cool to see it growing and growing. If you want to get a hold of me about the show, fitness and consciousness at Gmail. Same thing if you're interested in training with me, kettlebells, body weight, barbells, dumbbells. We can do, if you're in the Indianapolis area, you can come and train with me. If you're not, you can train with me. I use Zoom meeting. It's kind of like Skype. I can record the sessions. And so I can demonstrate technique. I can correct your technique in real time. And I can send you the MP4 so you can go over it again and again. Thank you. And thank you.